أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. أشهد أن محمدا حي على الصلاة. حي على حي على الفلاح. حي على الفلاح. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور انفسنا ومن سيئات اعمالنا واشهد ان لا اله الا الله وحده لا شريك له واشهد ان محمدا عبده ورسوله اما بعد. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Brothers and sisters, before getting into the theme of the Khutbah today, I ask that we remember our brothers and sisters throughout this ummah of the Prophet Muhammad sallam, who may be suffering, whether we know the cause of that suffering or not. There's certain suffering that's almost in our face on a day-to-day and weekly basis. And by that, I refer to the suffering that our brothers and sisters in Palestine are going through as we gather here today. In Masjid al-Aqsa, the third holiest site in all of Islam, it has become a very frequent occurrence that the Muslims are not allowed to go and pray Salatul Jumah in Masjid al-Aqsa. And the persons who are going into Masjid al-Aqsa are the Zionist government officials. They are the settlers who are terrorizing Muslims off of their land in the West Bank. They are those who can make no religious or civil claim to stop the Muslims from worshiping in Al-Aqsa, not just on Friday, but on any day whatsoever. So let us make dua for our brothers and sisters, not just those in that area who can't make salah in Masjid al-Aqsa, but pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will relieve the suffering. The open genocide that has been going on now for 14 or 15 months. Brothers and sisters, Make dua for those at least 45,000 known Palestinians who've been killed since October the 7th, 2023. Make dua for the 4,000 known dead in Lebanon today that have been killed by the same military forces that killed the 45,000 in Palestine. Make dua that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will hold the hand and stop this IDF force from bombing hospitals and targeting ambulances and continuing to destroy the infrastructure that we have there in Gaza, in Palestine. Brothers and sisters, this is not asking necessarily to make dua. This is just a point of information to show how insensitive those who can commit crimes against humanity can be. That this week, a parody, a kind of fun song, a kind of jingle, a kind of just in your face was delivered in Israel and is making fun of the people who've been massacred by the IDF. And this is a song that is popular among so many of those whose heart have been hardened for humanity. And so let us understand, let us make dua that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide these individuals. Make dua that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect this ummah of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Brothers and sisters, before getting into the theme of the Khutbah today, I ask also that we make salah, make dua for this country that we live in here, the United States of America. You know, none of us should have anything but sorrow to think that the CEO of United Healthcare was just shot and killed just yesterday, not in a domestic dispute, not in some kind of dispute about money. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best, but because of the vulturistic, sometimes, policies of United Healthcare, an individual, and Allah knows best. But it appears that an individual took the life of the CEO of United Healthcare because of the policies that this mega company, the policies that were being implemented. So let us pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala not allow this nation to become so lawless and just taking our grievances into our own hands. And whether we are disagreeing with an individual or a company, it's one thing to boycott a company because of their support for something that you disagree with. It's another thing to turn around and execute, to shoot a person because they are working or leading a particular company. Pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala stop this downward spiral that this country seems to be going through on so many different levels. And that the word and the life that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would have us there, that this becomes dominant, not just in the Muslim community, but throughout the land. Brothers and sisters, I'm not going to take much of your time, but I want to talk about an aspect, one of the most important aspects of Islam. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as we know from reading the Quran, that from the first human beings that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had on this earth, and I'm talking about the family of Adam, that this first family on the planet went against the guidance that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was bringing to this family through our father Adam. Now you know better than I the story about Kabil and Habil. We know how one killed the other out of being a kind of
twisted kind of jealousy that your sacrifice was accepted by Allah and mine was not. That you seem to be the good guy acting brother and I am not, so I'm going to take your life. The first murder occurring with the first family on earth. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, throughout the prophetic history of the over 114,000 different prophets that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent for the guidance of mankind, there's this common thread that runs through each of those revelations that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is all Ghafur. He's the most forgiving. That no matter what it is that we do that goes against what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has commanded, if we recognize that wrong and turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sincerely, not just say, oh Lord, I did it again. But if we turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sincerely, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will answer our dua as we seek forgiveness from Him. And so this first crime against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala of a son killing his brother because his sacrifice was not accepted, it foreshadowed what has happened with us as human beings from that event all the way up to the time where we are here, right here today. Brothers and sisters, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made it very clear throughout the Quran, and we find the same in the prophetic traditions of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That we find that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes it clear to us as human beings that His rahmah, that His mercy, it outseeds, it encompasses everything, that there's no crime, there's nothing that we can do as a human being that if we sincerely sought the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that Allah would not forgive us. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala lets us know in the Quran, and as I say, in the prophetic tradition. Let me give an example from the history of the time of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You and I know that at the time of the conquest of Mecca, this was an extraordinary event in the history of Islam. We can still look to this event and see how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allowed just almost a ragtag handful of believers to make hijrah, to go to Medina, and then come back with the kind of strength that the city would just, this is your city, Muhammad. We're not going to fight you. And the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, as he goes into Mecca, he made declarations. He told Sahaba, go tell the people that if you just stay behind your doors, stay in the house. If you go to Abu Sufyan's house, stay in that house. Don't come out and try to oppose us. Nothing will happen to any of you or your property. And the Prophet Muhammad also said, but there's an addition to what I'm saying. That there are 3 or 4 people, that no matter where you find them, if you find them hiding under the covering of the Kaaba, what they have done is unforgivable since they didn't ask for Allah to forgive them. And so whether you find them hiding under the cover of the Kaaba or not, kill them wherever you find them. And so one of these persons was a sister by the name of Asma bint Marwan. And she was a poetess. And she made all kinds of poems ridiculing the Muslim women, talking, not saying how modest they're dressing or how modest they're acting, but ridiculing them. They must be some ugly creatures. If they feel they have to cover up their beauty the way that they're doing, they got to be the ugliest things on earth. this was the least of the kind of poetry that she was saying against the Muslim sisters. There was a brother by the name, a person by the name of Ibn Qatal, who was also a poet. Wherever you find him, if he's under the cover of the Kaaba, go ahead and take him out. There was a brother a guy by the name of Abu Rafi, who had become Muslim, had embraced Islam, and then turned around and became the arch enemy of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ and the Muslims, and ridiculed the Prophet ﷺ and the Muslims in every opportunity that he had. Brothers and sisters, and then there was a brother, a person who was the son of the foremost leader in Mecca at this time, Abu Sufyan. And this son, Ikram, ibn Abu Sufyan, that the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ didn't say that he was one of the four to be killed, but he knew what he had done against the Muslims. And so even as his believing wife pleaded with him, he ran away. He ran so far. He ran to Yemen. And his wife had to come and get him and say, the Prophet ﷺ, you're not on the list. Nothing's going to happen to you. Just don't come back to Mecca doing what you were doing before you left. So Ibrahim came back, and of course, he embraced Islam and became one of the foremost of the Sahaba. Brothers and sisters, the point that I make is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has promised that his mercy, his rahmah, encompasses everything, that his mercy exceeds his wrath, that there's nothing that we could do as human beings that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would take it like, this is so wrong. You know better than what you're doing, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's mercy would not encompass, that his mercy would embrace, it would exceed whatever wrath or harm that he had designated for us. Brothers and sisters, just want to share this quick hadith. And that is that the Prophet Muhammad, they said that Allah has divided mercy into 100 parts. He has kept 99 parts for himself, and has sent down one part to earth. And through it, creatures show mercy to one another. But this is a really profound hadith, saying of the Prophet Muhammad as to what was revealed to him from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that out of 100 parts of rahmah, that Allah kept them to 99 parts of that to himself, and sent one part to earth, not just to human beings, but to creatures. There's tafsir about this hadith. Well, many of the scholars say that this is why a mother cow would not step on her baby. This is why animals don't crush their own young when they're so helpless that they can't even get out of the way of the feet of their mothers. And that mercy that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us, has kept for himself, is what gives us humanity and what gives us a sense of being merciful to our brothers and sisters.
Please.
Alhamdulillah, nahmaduhu wa nasta'inuhu wa nastaghfiruhu wa nu'minu bihi wa natawakkelu alayhi wa na'udhu min shururi anfusina wa min sayyiati a'malina. Brothers and sisters, it's very easy for us on a day-to-day basis to think about what we've done over the course of this day, of yesterday, of what we've done over the course of our conscious lives, in our adulthood, in our mature lives.
It's very easy for us when we reflect about what have I done. This deen is clear. What I should be doing, how I should interact with my brothers and sisters. That is very clear what I should do to try to help those. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not just testing those who are misfortunate and cannot necessarily feed themselves or pay their bills, but it's a test to the believers as well. That when we see situations, we are obligated to do whatever we can to try to help a fallen human being. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, know the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam designated that this is just for the Muslims. That when we're on the street and we see someone with a sign, it's not our responsibility to ask them, show me where you live, show me whether you have food in your house, whether you have children in our house. Our responsibility, if they're telling Allah, if it's a scam, then the sin is on them. And the blessing is on us for sincerely intending to help those in need. It's not for us to judge or evaluate whether or not someone needs certain things. I'm not saying someone standing on the corner drunk with a bottle of wine or liquor in their hand and they're asking you for money. And all you can think about, well, that bottle is half empty, so maybe he just wants to get more money to go buy some more wine. I'm not talking about that. But it's not for us to judge the need. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is so merciful. Whether we help someone who's not in need or not, we still get the blessing for our intention. So I'm not saying for me or you or anyone to be foolish in the way that we share whatever resources that people say that they need. But understand that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala rewards us for every action based on our niyyah. What is our intention? Is the intention to try to help someone who you feel is in need, or is it to try to become a social worker and make it on the spot determination that he or she doesn't look like she needs any kind of assistance coming from us? Brothers and sisters, as we approach and rapidly approach the month of Ramadan, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if we are alive for this coming Ramadan and make it through the Ramadan, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving us, affording us another opportunity to cleanse ourselves, to cleanse our intentions, to purify our deeds and our actions, to develop in our hearts, in our practice, a spirit, not just during the month of Ramadan, but throughout every waking day that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us a responsibility, a feeling of responsibility, not just to enrich ourselves and our families, but to help those who are in need throughout the society, whether those persons are Muslim or not. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and some of you correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't remember seeing anywhere in the Hadith literature or in the Quran, unless we're talking about zakat. We know this goes to Muslims. But I haven't seen anywhere where sadaqah, helping those in need, is limited to just the Muslims. And so this community, I think, and what I've been told by Muslims all across the state, that there are Muslims who come to the community mosque seeking assistance because they feel that in other places, I'm not criticizing anybody, I'm just trying to make a point about what we have been doing here, that there are people who come from across the state seeking assistance because a word has been out that if you come to the community mosque, inshallah, they may help you. And when giving and helping anyone else, and this is a practice that I have tried to carry with me for many years. Maybe if we help someone that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has sent to us for assistance, maybe some sins will be taken off of us because of our assistance to other people. And so forgive me for deviating and going away. It was not my intention to talk about this when I got up here today, but it was just kind of on my heart. We have so many requests for Sadaqah that it's impossible for us to meet all of the requests that we get, but we have to meet those and do what we can to try to help those who are genuinely in need and come to us seeking assistance. Do it. Oh Allah, give us an understanding of this thing that is helpful for us and useful for us in this world and in the next. Oh Allah, rid our hearts of any kind of greed and a sense of not helping all of humanity. Oh Allah, make not this ummah for the Prophet Muhammad an object of test for the disbelieving people. Come to Allah.